it was hard sitting on the bench. I'm not going to lie. There were certainly some hard days, but, I think it taught myself how to be a really good leader and how to be a really good teammate and how to empathize for your teammates in certain situations. When you're in the heat of battle, your emotions are high and, you feel things differently. And I think when you're on the sidelines and you don't have your jersey on, you can observe and really watch people and learn about people.
After 3 months of radio silence, Caitlin Clark finally speaks out.
After 3 months of silence, Caitlin Clark is finally speaking, and what she just revealed has everyone stunned. No statements, no interviews, nothing for months. Just rumors and questions. But now, she's breaking her silence to tell her side of the story about the pressure, the betrayal, and the truth behind the WNBA chaos that nearly broke her. This is Caitlin Clark like we've never seen her before. Before the silence, before the controversies, there was the rise. A rise so explosive it redefined women's basketball overnight. Caitlin Clark wasn't just another college player. She was the event. Every game she played sold out arenas. Every shot she took went viral. From Iowa to Indiana, she became the face of a movement, a spark that turned casual fans into diehards and made people who never watched.
Caitlin, what's the status of your health right now, and what specifically injury-wise between the ankle and the groin was it that prevented you from coming back this year?
Yeah, honestly, I've been working really hard to get back to full health, and I feel like probably over these last couple of weeks is when I've probably started feeling my best. Obviously, my ankle kind of didn't allow me to really see where my groin was at. It was, I think, my second full court workout back when we were in, I don't even know what month that would have been, but I just went to kind of make a move, and unfortunately my ankle completely rolled all the way forward, and probably one of the worst sprains I've dealt with.
Women's basketball, start paying attention. They called it the Caitlin Clark effect, a phenomenon that broke attendance records, shattered viewing numbers, and forced networks to move primetime slots just to fit her in. Her deep threes, her confidence, her fire, it wasn't just skill, it was spectacle. And that's what made her unstoppable. But fame doesn't come without a price, because with every highlight reel came critics. With every record came pressure. And behind that smile, Caitlin was learning what it really means to carry an entire league on your shoulders. And that's where everything started to change. Caitlin Clark's rise didn't happen quietly. It came with noise, emotion, and a rivalry that shook the sport. When she clashed with Angel Reese, it wasn't just basketball anymore, it became personal, cultural, and explosive. That championship moment when Angel pointed to her ring finger while glaring at Caitlin, it was more than a taunt, it was a statement that divided the entire country.
I've just tried to stay positive the best I can, and but I honestly feel like I'm in a really good spot, and people don't always realize. People that are kind of in the basketball world, or whether if you're in other sports too, when you're injured, it's honestly more work than when you're playing. So I've spent so much time here in this building this season, just trying to get healthy and trying to kind of just get back to 100%. And honestly, I think that, if I never was, I obviously played that game in Connecticut, and that's where I kind of felt some more pain in my right groin, and then obviously had some tests and other things done. And, there was no decision of this is the end of my season. I had full intention of returning, and I think in a way that was probably positive for me, because that's how I approached every single day.
Fans picked sides. Some saw Caitlin as the golden girl of college hoops. Others said she was protected by media bias. The debate spilled beyond the court onto talk shows, podcasts, and political conversations. Suddenly, Caitlin wasn't just a player, she was a headline, a symbol, a lightning rod for everything people loved or hated about women's basketball. And while she tried to stay focused, the constant spotlight became impossible to escape. Every word she said was dissected. Every reaction became a story. The cameras never stopped, and the pressure only grew heavier. Because deep down, Caitlin knew her next chapter wouldn't just define her career. It would test her completely. When Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA, the entire basketball world stopped to watch. The draft wasn't just a sporting event, it was a cultural moment. Cameras flashed, fans screamed, and the Indiana Fever had just landed the most anticipated rookie in decades. Overnight,
I came in here like I was going to play, I was going to get back out on the court, and it probably would have been even more devastating and crushing knowing that I was never going to be able to put my uniform back on for the rest of the season. But you just approach it like every single day you attack and get better, and it'll be the same for me going forward. Like, that work doesn't stop, and I think I've had really good perspective on it all, and that's probably what I'm most proud of too.
Ticket prices skyrocketed, merchandise sold out, and broadcasts featuring the Fever suddenly broke viewing records. It was official, the Caitlin Clark era had begun. But behind the cameras, behind the polished interviews, the reality was far tougher. The expectations were enormous. Every fan wanted a highlight. Every critic wanted proof that she could handle the pros. And every opponent wanted to be the one to humble her. The WNBA had suddenly become her battlefield. At first, she handled it with her usual calm, those signature logo threes, those quick crossovers that made defenders stumble. But the league was physical, much more physical than college ball. And soon, the bumps and bruises started piling up. Small injuries here and there, the kind most players shake off. Until one day, they didn't. A minor groin pull, a twisted ankle, and a string of exhausting road games started to take their toll. Caitlin's rhythm broke. Her confidence wavered. She wasn't the same explosive, but just as she started to find her rhythm again, another storm was forming, and this one wouldn't come from her body. It would come from the people around her. While Caitlin Clark fought through the physical grind on the court, her off-court life was turning into something even bigger, a business empire. The moment she stepped into the league, brands lined up like it was the NBA draft all over again. Nike, Gatorade, Wilson, State Farm, every major name wanted a piece of the Caitlin Clark phenomenon. Within weeks, she wasn't just a rookie, she was a global face of women's sports. Her signature Nike deal was historic. Reports claimed it rivaled contracts of top NBA rookies, an unheard-of figure for a first-year WNBA player. Then came the Caitlin Clark logo, the exclusive merchandise drops, and the endorsement campaigns that flooded social media. Every image of her, the smile, the confidence, the edge, became a symbol of what modern women's basketball could be: bold, marketable, unstoppable. But while fans were celebrating her success, others inside the league weren't so thrilled. Some veteran players quietly questioned whether she'd earned that level of fame so soon. Some even hinted that the league was building an entire brand around one rookie. It created tension unspoken, but undeniable, between generations of players who had fought for years with little recognition and a newcomer who was suddenly everywhere. Caitlin, however, didn't let that noise stop her. She expanded her vision beyond basketball. She launched the Caitlin Clark Foundation, aimed at supporting education, nutrition, and sports for underprivileged kids. She produced Full Court Press, a docuseries following her transition from college to the pros, giving fans an inside look at her world and, maybe, at her pressure. It was smart, strategic, and personal proof that she was more than just an athlete. She was a brand built on authenticity. But the higher she climbed, the more resistance she felt. Corporate meetings, constant interviews, nonstop travel. It was the glamorous side of fame, hiding an exhausting reality. Every move was scheduled, every word was filtered, and the freedom she once had on the court started to fade. The very machine that made her a star was now tightening around her. And as the spotlight grew hotter, cracks began to show, not in her game, but in the relationships behind the scenes. Teammates whispered about favoritism. Executives argued about marketing direction. League officials worried that her star power was outshining the WNBA itself. That's when Caitlin began pulling back fewer appearances, fewer quotes, more silence. The same silence that, months later, would have everyone asking the same question: what really happened? Because behind the brand, the cameras, and the billion-dollar deals, Caitlin was fighting something far more personal, a sense that she was losing control of her own story. And that's when the controversies began to explode. By the middle of the 2025 season, the silence around Caitlin Clark wasn't just noticeable, it was deafening. Reporters couldn't reach her, interviews were canceled, public appearances suddenly stopped. And fans started wondering, what's going on? Then came the headlines. rumors started swirling about tension between Caitlin and league executives, especially WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert. It all started when Engelbert reportedly said Caitlin should be grateful for her sponsorships, a comment that didn't sit well with fans or fellow players. The backlash was instant. Social media exploded with people accusing the league of undermining the very player who was keeping it alive. And when veteran players like Nafisa Collier and Sophie Cunningham publicly criticized Engelbert's leadership, things got even messier. Sophie didn't hold back, saying Engelbert should be a great leader, and she's not in any sense. It was a bold statement, and everyone knew exactly who she was defending: Caitlin Clark. Behind the scenes, sources claim Caitlin, but those close to her say the silence wasn't weakness, it was strategy. They say Caitlin was waiting, watching, letting everyone speak first before she told the truth in her own way through her first major interview in months. And now, that moment is finally here. Insiders say she's ready to talk about everything from the way the league handled her fame, to the personal toll of constant criticism, to the shocking power struggles that fans never saw on camera. Because what looked like a simple rookie controversy may actually reveal something much deeper, a story about control, corporate politics, and how one player's success exposed the cracks in an entire system. And once Caitlin starts talking, those cracks might just shatter completely. So now, after months of silence, the question on everyone's mind is simple. What is Caitlin Clark going to say? What could be so big, so personal, that she chose to stay quiet for nearly 3 months while the world kept talking about her? Sources close to her hint that this interview won't just be another polite media chat. This could be the one that changes the entire narrative. Reports suggest she's planning to address everything from the unfair treatment she faced behind the scenes to the emotional exhaustion of carrying a league on her back at just 23 years old. There's talk that she'll open up about her mental health, about the pressure of becoming a brand instead of just an athlete. Rumors even suggest she'll call out certain league officials for prioritizing profit over player well-being. And while none of this is confirmed, fans are already preparing for bombshells. Because when Caitlin Clark finally speaks, the entire sports world listens. Others believe she might reveal details about locker room politics, the unspoken tension between veterans and rookies, the jealousy that surfaced when her endorsement money started outpacing salaries of players who'd been there for years. It's the kind of truth that could divide the league even further, or finally force it to change. And then there's the emotional angle, the idea that this interview might not be about anger at all, but about vulnerability, about the loneliness of being on top, about the moments when the cheers fade and all that's left is pressure, about how it feels to live up to a label the world gave you before you even got the chance to define yourself. If Caitlin really opens up about that side, the human side, it could do more for women's basketball than any viral highlight ever could. Because fans see her as untouchable, but maybe she's about to show she's not. Maybe she's about to show she's real. And the stakes couldn't be higher. This isn't just a player interview, it's a moment that could shift how athletes are treated, how fame is managed, and how the WNBA handles the biggest star it's ever had. If Caitlin chooses honesty over caution, it could expose a truth the league isn't ready to face. But if she stays diplomatic, fans will know some stories are still too dangerous to tell. Either way, once those cameras start rolling, everything changes. Because this isn't just another interview, it's a turning point. For Caitlin, for the league, for the entire future of women's basketball. And it all begins with her first words. When Caitlin Clark finally speaks, it won't just be a moment, it'll be a shockwave. Every word she says will be dissected, quoted, twisted, and replayed for weeks. Because this isn't just about one player opening up. This is about a system being forced to listen. If she confirms what fans suspect, that the WNBA mishandled her rise, that league executives prioritize profit over protection, it could ignite the biggest reform conversation the league has ever faced. Sponsors would scramble, media outlets would turn chaotic, and suddenly, the pressure wouldn't be on Caitlin anymore. It would be on the league itself. The impact could stretch far beyond basketball. Other athletes, rookies, veterans, even players in different sports might finally find the courage to speak about how fame isolates them, how power plays out behind closed doors, how the business of sports often buries the humanity of those who make it possible. Caitlyn's voice could become a catalyst for change far larger than she ever intended. But the aftermath won't be easy. Her critics are waiting. The same commentators who doubted her will pick apart every sentence, searching for flaws. They'll say she's ungrateful. They'll say she's dramatic. They'll say she's not built for the spotlight. And yet, through it all, Caitlyn will have something far more powerful, her truth, spoken on her own terms. And that truth will travel faster than any headline. It will reach the young girls watching from small gyms across America, the fans who saw themselves in her story, and the dreamers who now